So we're doing some second half predictions on the website as well. Let's go through and talk about who and readjust. I think you can stick to your priors if you feel like you had a good call, but feel free to readjust to anything. So let's look at the playoffs right now. A team who is in playoff contention right now, and here are the teams in the AFC: Kansas City, Baltimore, Jacksonville, Miami, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Cincinnati, the entire AFC North. And then Philly, Detroit, San Francisco, New Orleans, Seattle, Dallas, and Minnesota. Let's give me a team, Deuce, that you believe is in the hunt or is in the playoffs right now that won't make it. They won't end up making the postseason.
That's in it right now.
Yeah, or I mean, and you can Buffalo at 5-4 would be fine too.
Okay, I was going to say because that's my surprise team. I don't think Buffalo Bills make it. And
you said that preseason.
Yeah, I said it. Thank you, Will. So somebody had it on record. I said it. I was like, I don't think the Bills are going to make the playoffs this year. And obviously, this was before Aaron Rodgers went down. So, but still, I think they're still going to be hard pressed to make it because if you look at them, right, what are they? 5-4 right now, right? And I know Harry. I asked Harry to pull the schedule. Harry, can you put that schedule up for me just so the people can see it? Look at this gauntlet coming down the stretch. Now, I know a lot of people will laugh at me when I say the New York Jets, but I also said that before the Philly game, and the Jets beat the Philly game.
The Jets give Josh Allen trouble too.
Thank you. Okay, there's always one team that gives is a thorn in the side for a team, and that's the Jets when it comes to Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, right? So that's going to be a big competitive game. But even if you take that game out, look at the next 3 games, right? At the Philadelphia Eagles, then they get a bye, then they play at Kansas City. We saw Dallas just travel to Philly and go blow to blow with them, right? And then they finish at Miami. So say they lose 3 of those games. That puts them at, 8 losses on the season? So you talk about Miami, you got the Jets, Philly, Kansas City, Dallas. That's 5 games. If they would lose 4 of them, that's 8. That gives them 8 losses, right? If they lose all 5, it gives them 9 losses. So I think it's going to be hard pressed for the Buffalo Bills to make the playoffs this year. And I said this in the beginning of the year, and Will attested to it. It's just because, B-Mac, we know this. Usually a team has a 3 to 4 year window. Now, again, we know Joe Burrow came out and said, as long as I'm here, the window's always available, right? And people like to put Josh Allen in that category. But again, you cannot lead the league in picks and be in that category. And that's what he's doing again this year. Matter of fact, he's led the league in interceptions since he came into the NFL, right? So, I mean, a pivotal interception again last week versus Cincinnati Bengals. You cannot turn the ball over. I don't care how many touchdowns you throw. And that's everybody's rebuttal. Well, he leads the league in touchdowns when you add his rushing touchdowns. It doesn't matter if you turn the football over. You're still giving that team an opportunity to win. So I thought them adding, Floyd right before the season with Von Miller's injury maybe gave them one last hurrah. But we've seen it. They've been up and down. The offense has been up and down. Too many
tons of injuries on defense, too.
Oh, they've been shattered on defense. I think Buffalo will be a team that doesn't make the playoffs this year.
By the way, New York. I was going to say the New York Times has a playoff predictor with the odds. I mean, I think we do too, but this was just constantly updating, and I could find it faster than I could find the sports line ones in my email inbox. But 47% chance to make the postseason, 25% chance to win the division. With the Dolphins, a whopping 68% chance to win that division, and that's based on performance and schedule and all that. BMAC. There's another team I see that's currently in the postseason.
Yep.
Less than 50% chance according to these metrics. But I won't suggest them for you. I'll let you pick whatever team you think won't make the playoff.
The team that's currently in the playoffs that won't make the playoffs is the Cleveland Browns.
There you go.
Cleveland Browns. And the reason why I'm going to Cleveland Browns is because just their division. Because
you don't want to say the Pittsburgh Steelers.
No. I'm going to give my reason why I think Pittsburgh sneak in. I'm going to give my reason to why I think Pittsburgh sneaks in. But the reason why I feel like the Cleveland Browns will make it, they're currently 1-2 in the AFC North. They're 5-3. They have already lost to Pittsburgh. They lost to Baltimore. They play Baltimore this Sunday. This is a very, very important ball game, especially if you're trying to keep your playoff hopes alive. You cannot be 1-3 with 2 remaining division games left and still hoping to get into the playoffs. And one of those teams that you have left, you already lost to as well. Then when you factor in the good things about the Cleveland Browns is solely about the defense. Their defense has been phenomenal. But at some point in time, their offense, they will have to come to the party. And we saw some things last week against the Arizona Cardinals in the second half from Deshaun Watson, but heck, they played against Arizona. If you look at that ball game in the first half, if it wasn't for their defense, that game was extremely close in the first half against Clayton Tune and the Arizona Cardinals. So we haven't really seen a lot from Cleveland's offense. Defensively have been carrying them, and of course they had a lapse against the Colts, and 2 bad calls bailed them out. And winning that ball game, that would have been another loss as well. So I factor in with them already kind of being behind the ball in the division with 3 games left in your division. You still got to play Baltimore, which is this Sunday, Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. Both teams, great defensive play. They play real well. And they caught Cincinnati early in the year, which is a plus, because Cincinnati that they were going to play in a few weeks is not the same Cincinnati they saw early in the year. So I'll take
against them boys, though.
They always struggle, and also too they always split. So history tells us with them already beating Cincinnati's probably going to beat them.
Yeah. So they're at Baltimore, and then get the Steelers at home the week after that. I mean, this is basically these 2 weeks. Yeah. So like this playoff predictor has the Browns at 65% chance to make the playoffs. If they lose to the Ravens, it's down to 54, and lose to the Steelers down to 35, I believe. So it's like these 2 weeks, like you got to get like Deshaun Watson, you're making $230 million fully guaranteed. You play when you want, you sit when you want, you do whatever the hell you want. Apparently, good for you, player empowerment and all that. But I mean, like you better play well these next 2 weeks, because it's going to get ugly in Cleveland if they lose these 2 divisional games. As BMAC points out, to be 1-4 in the division and have a big time uphill battle. I was going to go Cleveland too, but I think Pittsburgh. I mean,
it's going to come down to Pittsburgh and Cleveland probably for a 6 or 7.
Like that game in 2 weeks versus those 2 teams, like might be like a de facto play game.
So Sunday's going to tell us a lot with Cleveland, right? But if they lose,
is it though? Baltimore's been thrashing everybody at home.
But what I'm saying is, in regards to, I'm talking about with the playoff picture, picture. So if they lose to Baltimore Sunday, they cannot lose to Pittsburgh the following week.
For sure.
So that's what I'm saying. This game Sunday is going to tell us a lot in regards to their playoff hopes against Baltimore. But if they lose, like Will said, if they win, the percentages increase. If they lose, it decreases. So this is a big game for Cleveland.
Massive game.
Yeah.
Bill, by the way, if the Bills lose to the Broncos this week, I mean, you wouldn't think it's likely, but you never know.
That's in Buffalo.
We dropped down to it's in Buffalo, yeah. If they let's say they beat the Broncos and lose to the Jets, lose to the Jets, they would be down to 26% chance to make the playoffs.
Let's go.
They're not listening to Denver.
I will take. Like I said, I thought the series. All right, let's flip this on its head and give me a team that's not currently in the playoffs that you think will make the playoffs, Deuce.
This one might surprise everybody, but it really shouldn't. I mean, especially if you look at the remaining schedule, the Houston Texans, right? And we talked about this in the beginning of the year. I told everybody that Houston was going to be a hard out this year, and everybody laughed at me. I said, just knowing DeMeco Ryans and the type of guy he is, the culture he was going to bring, and he got 2 culture-changing pieces in the draft with C.J. Stroud and Will Anderson at the edge position. I told everybody they are going to fight tooth and nail every single week. And BMAC, the thing is, they're built right in the trenches, right? That offensive line coming into a C.J. Stroud was in the best scenario. And I stated this when we talked about the draft. I said, as far as protection, C.J. Stroud's going to have the best line out of all these draft picks right now. In the beginning of the year, he was still playing with backups because, Tunsil was hurt, Howard was hurt, and he was still cooking guys. And those backups, I think it was a really good job of them getting George Fant when he was out there on the street, bringing him in. He's played really well for them as well. But now that the offensive line is whole, we saw what he did this last Sunday, right? 44 seconds, B-Mac. Nina scored a win, marched his team down the field, and got a win, a big win. And if you look at the Houston Texans schedule, right, the 5 of the last 8 games, B-Mac and Will, are at home. You know what those 3 road games are? The Jets, Colts, and Titans. So if you look at their schedule, they've proven at home they can beat everybody. I mean, they went to Duval County and smacked up Trevor Lawrence and them, so they can win on the road as well. But they've really played well at home. And for them to be comfortable 5 out of the last 8 at home, right, and those 3 road games being Jets, Colts, and Titans. Now, they do have a gauntlet this week in the Bengals, but if they can get over that, even if they don't win that game, 5 of the last 8 at home, right, the 3 road games, Jets, Colts, and Titans. I think the Houston Texans could be a sneaky team. I don't think anybody before the season said we might get 2 teams from the AFC South in the playoffs. It could happen now.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that. I'm gonna go a different direction. I'm gonna go with another AFC team, go out west of the Chargers. And the reason why I'm going with the Chargers because the defense is starting to play some surprisingly pretty good football.
No, they
play. Hold on. I was going to say the opponent probably played a big part in the dominant performances that we saw from the Chargers, the Jets, and then the week before that, the Chicago Bears. But what does that do, Leger? It provides confidence.
Confidence, it does.
Yes, and it can kind of jumpstart a consistency in performances. So I'm relying on that. Then also to look at their schedule. You talked about the Houston Texans schedule. The next 6 ball games. You got Detroit, Green Bay, Baltimore, New England, Denver, Raiders. They would probably be the favorite in every ball game in the next 6 games, except Baltimore and Detroit.
Yeah.
So that is a plus for them. And then they finish the season out against Buffalo, Denver, and Kansas City. By that time, we don't know what Buffalo Bills team they'll be getting, right? You got the Broncos, who probably much will have everything shipped to Cabo because their season is pretty much over. And then if Kansas City got everything pretty much locked and loaded,
But if you beat Baltimore, you actually help the Chiefs potentially sit guys in Week 18. Because that's the main, you know what I mean? So there's sort of a cascading effect there where they beat the Ravens, and all of a sudden the Ravens are behind the Chiefs in the standings, and they could end up sitting everybody in Week 18.
Exactly. Wow. So when you factor that into the equation with their schedule and how favorite how much they probably would be a favorite in those ball games, especially with the Kansas City situation, and defensively they can if Bosa and Matt can do what they've done in the last 2 weeks, just a piece of it, I think they can make things interesting. And by the way, they always split with Kansas City anyway. They always play them extremely tough. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think the Chargers. This year. I think Chargers. If Brandon Staley just don't pick up the PlayStation 5 controller and just continue to coach how you've been coaching the last few weeks, they might make a run.
By the way, I forgot to mention, I believe that the games this weekend are on the Sunday, November 12th, right?
Mm-hmm.
Call of Duty, the new Call of Duty comes out on Friday.
No, don't do that. Don't do
Oh, Lord, Kyler Murray ain't gonna be ready to play on Sunday.
Kyler's like, I don't know, Coach. Maybe not this week. How about next week, Coach?
Play, man.
Don't do Kyler like that. He ain't bothering nobody.
I know. He's be bothering me if he plays well. I'll take somebody. I think somebody in the NFC South can jump up and steal it from the Saints. Both Tampa Bay 3-5, Atlanta 4-5, Saints 5-4. Saints haven't looked great. They looked a little bit better. Derek Carr playing okay, but I mean, they got like a plus point difference. I wouldn't be surprised if Atlanta stole that division or even Tampa Bay. But all right, next coach fired. We've already gotten one somehow. Early in the season, to already have one, especially a guy with 4 years left on his contract. But Josh McDaniels gone. Dudes, who do you think is the next coach fired if we get one in the season?
Yeah, I always hate talking about coaches being fired because we've been in those rooms. We always call it, Black Friday when it happens. But we saw McDaniels get fired in the middle of the season, so it wasn't Black Friday for him. It was Black Tuesday for him.
It's usually it's usually Black Monday,
and Black Monday and not Friday. I said,
it's fine. I mean, we got football Black Friday this year for the first time.
Exactly, that's why I mixed that up.
Black Monday is like, and like this is not like it's the weirdest thing about this job because like Black Monday is like one of the big like busiest days of the year if you do what we do. Like we do emergency podcast every time somebody's fired. It's like emergency podcast every time somebody's hired. You got to write like it's one of the craziest days, and it's so weird because it's like people are losing their jobs. It's going to happen.
Jobs,
it's a weird business.
So again, don't like really discussing people prematurely losing their jobs. But if I had to pick somebody, it's Ron Rivera, and I think the writing has been on the wall already, right? Interesting that Magic Irvin Johnson a few weeks ago when they got smacked up by Chicago on Thursday night. I know Harry has that tweet for us. Him coming out on social media talking about how the team wasn't prepared. They didn't compete. You see it right there. Tonight the Commanders with no intensity or fire. We didn't compete in the first half and got down 27-3 heading into halftime. It was too big of a hole to climb out That is why we ended up losing 40 to 20,
Mm.
right? So, and then you kind of see what they did, B-Mac, right? They
Yep.
traded away their best two pass rushers, right? Montez Sweat and then Chase Young. They traded them away to the 49ers, which should have been illegal for them to do. So the writing's kind of on the wall. Now, Commanders had a big win versus the Patriots this last week. And if you're Ron Rivera, you kind of see the writing on the wall, right? New ownership coming in. They didn't hire you. Even if he makes the playoffs, I could see a scenario of them technically moving on, which it's hard to do. It's hard to fire a coach if they make the playoffs. But right now in that NFC East, you would have to say, obviously the Giants are what the Giants are, right? But you would have to say the Commanders are entrenched as that third team. I think the Cowboys going toe-to-toe with the Eagles lets you know how good of a team they can be, right? The Eagles are the number one team in the NFL right now, record-wise. Some people will still say the Ravens are the best team in the NFL. But I think the writing's on the wall, right? New ownership coming in, Magic Johnson tweeting things like that. You're starting to, offload some of your best pieces. Kind of lets you know, B-Mac, you're heading for a rebuild, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I would say, again, I don't like saying, anybody's about to get fired, but inevitable, Ali, it looks like Ron Rivera could potentially be the next coach that's going to get fired.
Yeah, legit. I think that's the best pick based on everything you mentioned. All cool facts. I'll go a different direction just for sake of argument. I'll go Arthur Smith.
Ooh.
I'll go Arthur Smith. And the reason why is that so far it's been a disappointing year. Through 9 games, he's below 500, 4-5. His first 2 seasons, he's 14-20. And it's safe to say he did a better coaching job last year with less talent than what he's currently doing right now with more talent. And then what we factor in and witnessed last week, that loss to Minnesota hurt. But it hurts more when you lost to a quarterback that currently lives in a hotel. You lost to a quarterback who lives in a hotel right now. He literally just got to town the same week. Joshua Dobbs has not been in Minnesota long enough to get a Juicy Lucy burger, but he got a victory for the organization before getting a Juicy
Lucy Groundhouse Killer burger.
Juicy Lucy burgers are good.
How is that possible, Arthur? You cannot lose to a guy who just got to town. He didn't even know the plays. Don't even know his teammates' name. Yep. And you lost. And then also, too, when you factor in just how wide open the NFC South is. In the beginning of the season, when everything was finally said and done, when the rosters were set, I think you can make a legit argument that Atlanta Falcons had the most talented team in their division. From top to bottom.
Yeah, Saints probably right there, yep.
Yeah, you can make it's a legit argument. Like they can either be 1 or 2 or 1A or 1B. It doesn't matter, right? But we're not seeing that develop on the football field. He's mismanaged the quarterback situation. He's mismanaged the entire offense. Earlier, we thought we was going to see Bijan Robinson do what Bijan Robinson do what he can do. Now he's been missing in the lineup. It's like, what are we doing? Like, and he got the job because he was an offensive coordinator for the Tennessee Titans. It looks like he's never called plays before. They were in the red zone one time last Sunday against the Vikings on the 3-yard line. 3 plays later, they lost 15 yards.
Oh, yeah. Yep. That was weird. It's like, how are you kicking a field goal here? Like, you're on the 3.
And the first 2 plays were passes.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? So if I'll say this, and I like I said, I just wanted to throw something out there for sake of argument, a different option. But if they don't make the playoffs this year, and if they finish below 500, the rest of the schedule goes as this: Arizona. Now get this, they're underdog in this ball game. Vegas has the Falcons an underdog, yes, against Arizona.
Let you know how
I said that on Monday that it would flip. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So they're underdog.
That's
to
bad.
Kyler
That's
Murray
not
making
good.
his first. That's not good at all. So they got Arizona, New Orleans, the Jets, Tampa, at Carolina, Indy, Chicago, and the Saints. And the Saints in the next 8 games. If they're not above 500 in the next 8 games and they miss the playoffs, Leger, he might be on the outside looking in. 3 years is now what they're kind of giving coaches now. That you got a 3-year window.
The interesting thing is, I don't know if you remember, we had this discussion, I think in the offseason, right? I think it was me, you, and Tommy, and we were discussing guys that could have a bounce back breakout year, right? And do you remember who your pick was?
Bounce back, was it Kyle Pitts?
Thank you. Do you remember what I said when we had that conversation?
I can't remember exactly what you said, but he ain't bouncing back.
I was saying I think Kyle Pitts won't have a bounce back season because of their offensive coordinator / head coach, Arthur Smith. I was like, this guy is a unicorn, but for some reason, he just has not been able to use him properly, right? Yeah. And they brought in Jonnu Smith, when he was at the Tennessee Titans, a lot of 12 personnel, 1 back, 2 tight end sets. Mm-hmm. And it seems like lately Jonnu Smith is the number 1 tight end on the team. He's the one getting all the target share, which again, Kyle Pitts is a unicorn. How do you not know how to use a unicorn?
He's mismanaging the offense. He has a few Ferraris, but he don't want to put them on the interstate.
He got him in the garage, sitting in the garage chilling.
Yeah, or either just ride through the neighborhood. Like, that doesn't do anything when you got a Ferrari. Like, you put it on the interstate and you go. But like I said, you look at the next 8 games, man. If they finish below 500, most importantly, if they miss the playoffs with how bad the NFC South is, if you miss the playoffs, 3-year window.
Yeah.
And
if Minnesota with Josh Dobbs goes to the playoffs, and you lost to Josh Dobbs like that, and you don't go, it's gonna be some hot butts